Hey everyone, I hope you all are doing well. In this video here I would like to show you a video from the last week's daily race C at Catalunya with the Group 4 cars. Once again I was trying out the Alfa Romeo 4C. Well, unfortunately, as I mentioned in the previous video, this car doesn't really have a lot of acceleration from the low speed range, and thus I was getting overtaken by Aitzeda here. Fair and cleanly. So, because I also didn't want to lose a lot of time in general, so I just let him pass by because I knew that if I was able to stick with him, mainly due to the slipstream, I would get another chance to try and overtake him at some point later on. But the main reason why I wanted to upload once again another video from this daily race C with the Alfa Romeo 4C was on the previous video I mentioned that I wanted to try and upload like some sort of Hotlap video, right? Where I wasn't using the slipstream, as well as my car still having a lot of fuel left on the car. So by that I mean that you pretty much set that lap around lap 2 till lap 4, because during that time your tires would still be like in an optimal window, but in terms of the tire degradation I mean, as well as your car still having a lot of fuel left. And furthermore, if you would also use the slipstream here, it would also gain you like another 2 tenths at best, I think. Or it's like around 2 or 3 tenths where you can maybe gain per lap. Especially if you drive on the start finish straight here, and if you're like pretty close to the car in front of you, you can gain a lot of time in general. But yeah, as I said before, like I wanted to try and get not really get done, but pretty much like do a hot lap, like a really cool and good hot lap, which I could maybe use to upload later on to show it to you guys as well. Because the Alfa Romeo, like, which you were able to see from the previous video, it actually turned out to be a really good car, and like even a really good alternative to the Huracan actually. The only issue with this car is obviously if you want to overtake the Huracan on the straight line, especially if you have to fight against 2 or 3 Huracans on the same time. But nevertheless, I was able to overtake I'd say towards the end of lap 1 here, like quite cleanly, and we were also able to have like a really clean battle afterwards, which was also really nice. Because when I was trying to get like the one good hot lap done, I was doing so many races in the meantime, which was actually ridiculous. Because there were so many cases happening, which either I was the one not being able to do the hot lap I wanted, or some other factors were included instead. So for example, there were like few races out there where I was able to pit at the end of lap 1 without changing the tires, because if you don't change your tires, then you would automatically save like another 3, 4 or 5 seconds in the end, which is like a lot. And because of that, like if I was starting from the front of the field, which I also tried to do in this case here, pit in at the end of lap 1 potentially, then I could also try to set like the hot lap I wanted, right? Like without using the slipstream. I would also have like good tire degradation. Like I would still have like a lot of tire life left, and my car would still have a lot of fuel as well. So it's pretty much like me trying to get the hot lap with full fuel I wanted, but there were so many cases happening where I wasn't really satisfied with the lap I've done, because it was either a 47.0 because I missed the braking point on one corner here, like for example the previous corner here, because it's so easy to miss the apex, and also to be a bit light on the throttle instead, because on that corner you really have to nail the apex and also be on the throttle as soon as possible, so that you can also get the power down quite early. Because with these cars here, with the Group 4 cars, it's really important to keep up the momentum of these cars, because they're not as fast as the Group 3 cars. So because of that, you have to try and keep up the momentum a lot more compared to the Group 3 cars. Because with the Group 3 cars, you can maybe allow yourself to maybe lose the momentum just a tiny bit, a few corners like there and there. But with the Group 4 cars, it's not really possible, because like these cars, they don't really have a lot of power compared to the Group 3 cars. So you have to try and keep up the momentum as best as you can in order not to lose a lot of time in the end. And here you can see that like on my third lap, I was able to do like a 46.8, and on my second lap, I 46.9. But this is going to be my best lap from this race, I believe. Which, like, I will let you guys watch the lap first, and then I can also try to talk about it afterwards, just a tiny bit. But because of me, like, starting from pole position from this race here, and also me being able to set these kind of lap times, I was like, okay, let's just try to upload the full race video instead. Because there you can also maybe see my inputs once again, also see the sector times. I was also doing throughout this race. I'm not quite sure if I was using this MFD till the end of the race, but when I was trying to set the fast lap times here, I was using the MFD here, so you can try to compare your sector times as well as your lap times with mine here. And I think on this lap here, I lost like just a tiny bit of time in the final sector. Like, it doesn't really look a lot here, but I think on this far right-hander, was it the right-hander, or was it the exit of the final corner maybe? No, then it must have been the breaking point potentially, where I lost a bit of time. But you will be able to see it, like down there. Like, I lost a tiny bit of time there compared to my previous lap. I think if you nail everything, like on all the sectors, I think you can do a 46.7 with the Alfa Romeo on full fuel, or like, well, with full fuel, I mean like from lap 2 around to lap 4, because you also have to keep in mind the tire wear you have throughout the distance, right? Because obviously at this point it's not really that bad. I think starting from lap 5 or lap 6, that's where you will really notice your tires falling a bit down, or like a bit off. Yeah, like a bit down, I mean. So yeah, that's why I was also trying not to push a little bit too much, but I think because of me setting those 46 lap times before, I was sacrificing a little bit of my tire life towards the end of the race, because there was like another attempt I did just before I've done this race here actually, where my final lap was a 47.5. No, sorry, it was a 47.4, I believe, like a really high 0.4, which is like really good, considering if you don't really have a lot of tire life left anymore, and you also have to try to see how you can finish the race, right? So yeah, that's why I think the first couple of laps, or like the first stint, or maybe the first half of that race, was actually really good from my side. It's just that I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That I lost a little bit of time towards the end of the race there. If I have to compare the lap times I've done in this race compared to the other one I've done before. But nevertheless, it was a really good race. It was a really good race from my side. So yeah, I don't want to complain a bit too much, because on the first lap, yes, I was getting overtaken by Aitzeder here. So I also lost a little bit of time there, because I had to sacrifice my entry speed into turn 1 a bit, and I also had to try to overtake him once again. So in total, I also lost like yeah, maybe a second there potentially. And then also towards the end of the race, if I have to sum up all the time losses I've had there compared to the other race I've done before, then maybe it's once again like another half a second or like almost a second in the end. So, but it's like if you really, really want to go to the perfection maybe, and if everything has to go in your way, well, you have to set these kind of lap times. You also have to try not to make any single mistakes even, because it's so easy to cut this corner here a little bit too much in the inside. Then you also can run a little bit too wide on these two corners here quite easily. And if you do that, you would just get a time penalty in the end for exceeding the track limits, which is not ideal, obviously. And then the other factors is that you also have to try not to overdrive too much, because if you do that, then you will also just destroy your front tires, especially because you want to try to turn even more towards these kind of high-speed corners so that the car can maybe turn and carry a little bit more speed through these kind of corners. And yeah, these are all kind of factors which you have to keep in mind. Like, do you want to try to go flat out so that you can try to set these kind of lap times I've done in the first half of that race here? Or do you want to think a little bit about the long part actually, where you want to try to save your tires a little bit at the beginning of the race so that you will have much better tire life towards the end of the race, where you will be able to set faster lap times in the end, right? So these are a few things which you have to take into consideration. So it also depends on the race combo and also what kind of race you have to do. Are you driving by yourself, or do you have to drive against somebody else on the same time? Because if you're only driving by yourself, then maybe you can try to go for the flat out strategy, because it's only about yourself on the track here and you don't really have to worry and look for anybody else on the track on the same time. But if you have to fight against somebody else, and let's say if you're stuck behind of that driver in front of you, then maybe it's a bit wiser to stay a little bit longer behind of that driver so that you can save your tires even more, even better, so that you will have like much better tires towards the end of the race. It's a bit similar with Formula 1 actually, where, okay, to be fair, the current leaders of those races, they always try to save the tires as much as possible, but they mostly do that so that they still have like a little bit of tire life and sorry, I have to say it again, like, so that they still have like a little bit of tire life left towards the end of their stint. Yes, that's what I wanted to say. But yeah, because you never know what might happen, right? Because on some instances, maybe you need to push. That's why you need those tire life from your tires for those circumstances. But it's always interesting in the end. So like in my case here, I was trying to push in the end to see what kind of pace it's possible to push from the beginning till the end. It's just that towards the end of the race, I think I kinda destroyed my tires a bit too much, because I really noticed that towards the last 2 laps actually, where the car really struggled to turn into the high-speed corners as well as into those low-speed corners. Where you had to brake quite a lot due to the weight transfer of those cars. And here I was so scared of getting a penalty here, because I I collided with the wall on the left hand side while going into the pits. But luckily I didn't receive a penalty there, which really helped my race. Because like when that happened, I was like, oh please no, please don't give me yet another penalty. Because in the previous race, I got a penalty unfortunately, and that was the reason why I did this race in the following. And I think what I also said earlier, where I was doing so many races before in order to get that one video done, or like the one Hotlap done actually. There were like two things always being in the between, which resulted in me not being able to upload these kind of videos, or let's say me not being satisfied with these kind of races. The one thing I said earlier was like, yes, there were like many races where I was not really satisfied with my own pace at the beginning of the race, because I like only like it's still really good, but it's just that I wanted to upload like a really good hot lap for you guys. But the pace I was doing there were like mostly 47.0 or like really high 46.9. But I knew what the Alfa Romeo was capable of in the end. So because it was able to do like, if you nailed everything, 46.7. But if you still wanted to set like a really good hot lap, then maybe a low 46.8. And you were also able to see here I was doing like 3 46s in a row, which is also like the first time that I was able to do that in general. So I was also quite surprised by it. And the second reason why I wasn't really having a lot of races which were quite good in my opinion were like, before this race I didn't set a really fast lap time, so I was only starting from around P6 or P5 from that race. No, I'm sorry, this happened afterwards. Like at the beginning of my stint yesterday, like where I tried to upload some of these Hotlap videos, right? Or like my attempts actually. I was still starting from the back of the grid, but there were so many guys pitting in at the end of lap 1, and I was like, if they already pit at the end of lap 1, and these guys being right in front of me, then I'm not quite sure how long it would take me to overtake them in the end, because if you still need to try to overtake few guys in front of you, in front of you, obviously it also depends on how you overtake them. It's also going to cost you a little bit of tires in the end. And then furthermore, I wasn't quite sure if I was able to overtake them by the end of lap 2 or even lap 3. Because the latest you should try to set your lap is like around lap 4, maybe lap 5 if you have like really good tires. But because of some of these guys pitting in at the end of lap 1 all the time, I was like, okay, maybe I have to set a qualifying lap, like just a quick one, and then on those following races I started from P5 I believe, and from there it was kind of possible to do it, but I was still not really satisfied with it because I was still involved with lots of battles. So I was like, okay, let's try to start from the pole position by setting a really good lap time. So in this video here, I think you saw me doing a 46.2, but just before I entered this race, with the countdown being shown on the top of the screen, I did a 46.101, I believe. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to save that lap in the game. But then at the end of that race here, I still wanted to try and give it another go on the time trial session, because I knew that the Alfa Romeo would be like a bit quicker. And I also tried to go for the top 10 time with the Alfa Romeo. But after a few attempts, I only did a 46.060, I believe. Like, I just missed entering the top 10 with the Alfa Romeo, unfortunately. But in my opinion, it had the potential of setting 45s in the end even, but he had to nail everything. And it's quite difficult to nail turn 1 with this car all the time, because the rear always wants to step out, right? So it was really stressful to try and set the lap time I wanted in the end. So yeah, like this is pretty much it, because this is also the final lap here, where I was doing a 47.7, I believe. Not really ideal, but still within the 47s. And personally, I also didn't really expect to talk throughout the entire video here because nothing happened pretty much. But once again, I wanted to thank you guys for watching the video. Have a good start into the week. I will also try to maybe do the new daily races this week. And yeah, have a good one, guys. Take care. Have a good week. And also make sure to watch the Race of Champions tomorrow, because I also intend to upload a video about that later on from my POV and also explain a few things such as the nationality being used. But yeah, have a good one, guys. See ya. Take care.